Hey guys, this is Pat and Heidi from Rain Country Homestead.
And Cody Biscotti.
And God is good all the time.
Yes, he is.
So, recently we did a video on the benefits of prepping. And we like to go through the comments after we get done doing a video and reading what people have to say, true stories and ideas that they might have. Right. In conjunction with that video, and
maybe commentary a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of good comments in there. We can't read them all,
right?
So we take a select few of the folks that are out there that actually all over the country and all over the world that have experienced true life events in reference to the benefits that they had for prepping.
Yeah, so, and if you haven't seen that video that we did on the benefits of prepping, I'll go ahead and link to it in the description box down below and also up in the iCards, even though I try to avoid the iCards every now and then, I'll still put some up there, but mostly in the description box. If you click on show more, it will show you everything we're talking about in there, because I know some people still don't quite get how that works. So you just look right below the video, you'll see the description box, and then you'll see a little thing that says show more. When you click on that, it'll just drop down and show everything. So don't forget to do that. Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to say before I get started on comments is that we also have a whole playlist on prepping. You know, we have a several part series, like 11 or 12 part series that we never quite finished, along with a bunch of other videos, but the series is broken up into parts, like one about food, one about cooking, one about skills, and so on and so forth. So you can check that out. That playlist will also be linked down below. Okay, so the first comment we're going to read is by Wendy Robert, and here's what she says. I am a testimony to what you are exactly talking about. My coworkers would laugh at me because I was canning at least once or twice a week. In September of 2018, I lost my job. For the first 6 to 8 months, we lived off our food that I had canned, and also had a friend whose spouse took sick and could not work. I shared what I had in my freezer. I shared some of my canned goods and felt very good about it. I have a small job now, not exactly what I was making before, but I still have enough money to can what I need to eat. I love watching your show.
Well, and this is for the folks that don't necessarily think, there's not going to be a zombie apocalypse or, some major event that causes everybody to go crazy. This is a personal, everyday life situation that many of us go through. So prepping is for everybody, in our opinion. Yep. Yeah, and we did a video just on that. Yeah.
You probably got it's prepping for everyone?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And okay, let's continue on. Catherine Ganya, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It depends on what language it's based off of. But anyway, Catherine, not only were you prepared when she was talking about us, when we shared our own little stories in there. Not only were you prepared when your town became an island, but you did not need to go out to compete with the unprepared. Exactly. That's why I wanted to read this. Meaning that often people will become dangerous to themselves and others when desperation sets in. My husband and I often discuss the chaos that would ensue in our area if the trucks stopped running.
Right.
Right. And there was another one. I didn't include this comment in here because it was so long, but I just want to throw it out there real quick. Somebody else made a comment that in the Y2K thing, that it was chaos the night before. It was just crazy. And so the point being made that even when it's a perceived disaster, people can go berserk.
Oh, sure. You have one person that panics, and all of a sudden you'll have somebody who sees that person panics, and they panic too, and thinking, oh, I need to go get 30 cases of water. If they're getting 30 cases of water, it must be a good idea. There's a reason why. So a lot of times panicking is contagious in many cases.
Right. So, being prepared means you don't have to go out and deal with that unless you just want to go watch, because sometimes that's fun.
Or if there's a break in the line, you might get a few more things. So.
Yeah. Okay, the next comment is by JoJo. So as a child, I lived in a remote area where the closest grocery store was half a day's travel. Not only did my mother garden, she taught us what to eat if we were ever lost in the forest. I'm now relearning everything I can about all the nutrient-rich foods that grow wild all around us, as well as the various plants that have medicinal benefits. If you only learn one new wild edible a month, that's 12 plants you'll be feasting on in a year. Now I eat an abundance of wild foods all summer, things that I used to treat like invaders and now realize they are blessings.
Oh yeah, but there's some wisdom. You don't want to practice at the time of the emergency and learn during the time of the emergency. You want to learn now so you can
Right.
practice those skills in a stressful, when the stressful situation comes up, you're going to have the knowledge.
And I mentioned that too. We talked about that too in the skills video that we put up. The importance of learning that stuff now instead of waiting until disaster
Right.
strikes. Okay, the next one is by MS Homesteader, or maybe that's Ms. Homesteader. I'm not sure which way that's supposed to be, but at any rate. We've been preparing for 25 years, and we thank God for putting this on our hearts because just a couple of years after we started canning, dehydrating, freezing our own foods, buying half a beef until we got a place we could raise our own meat, our daughter had medical issues. Water and heat cooking are key, in my humble opinion. We live on a river, have 2 wells, a gas-powered pump as well as an old hand pump, water filter, Berkey, and extra filters in stock. We also prep firewood, hay for our animals, and grains to sprout or grow fodder for them if needed. Other items to prep are tools, chainsaws, fuel and mix, bar oil, extra chains, and other bars for each saw. Stocking fuel can be tricky because it breaks down over time and in certain climates. Extra oil and filters for your vehicles, brake fluid, power steering fluid, transmission fluid, heavy lube oil, extra belts, plugs, etc. Just think about what you use or need every day and then prep for it. We have shifted from freezing things to more canning and dehydrating because fuel may be an issue someday. Either shortages or high costs, so running a generator isn't always practical for long term either. Diversify solar, wind, different fuels, gas, propane, etc., or plan to live without fuels, doing everything by hand. So having tools to do so is key. We have lived from our storage several times in our lives due to extensive medical, travel, and bills with our daughter over the years. You are correct. If you can live from the pantry, then monies that would be spent on food can shift elsewhere, which is exactly what we've done. Currently, we are rebuilding due to some medical issues the end of 2018 and early 2019, which drew down our pantry. But as the saying goes, store what you use and use what you store. It has to be rotated. Dry goods, if stored properly, will keep. But many canned, either home or industrial, has limits to storage. When Y2K scare and panic happened, we ended up with literally 500 plus pounds of beans, rice, flour, grains, canning lids, and dozens of wide-mouth jars, which are also prep items. Can't can without them, right? And other dried foods such as dry milk, eggs, buttermilk, cheese powder, powdered butter, etc. From a friend who panicked, and when nothing happened, they said they'd never use it, so they gave 90% of it to us. Wow. Well, we enjoy your vlog and agree with you 100+%. Blessings to you both. So,
Well, can't argue with that.
Right.
The only thing I'd recommend, and they talked about rotating, and that goes with fuels as well.
Yeah.
When I mix, we have fuels on hand, and we rotate those through the vehicles, so
Right.
we keep that freshened up. One thing I would recommend for the saw gas or trimmer gas, the 2-stroke or whatever, is mix a little bit of that at a time. I carry around a little 1-gallon saw mix bottle, and I keep that topped off every time, so when I just need to mix a new batch of fuel, I just mix it a gallon at a time so it doesn't sit for a long time. So that is just a tip, but what a great comment.
Does it go bad faster after it's mixed?
Well, no, but let's say you're done with the firewood season and you got a gallon of that sitting around. Well, then what are you going to use that in?
Oh,
You know,
yeah, true.
so it's kind of like, you know, having flour and making 30 loaves of bread because you got the flour out. Well, you know, grind a little bit of wheat at a time, because the wheat berries, they store for a long period of time in their whole form, but once you grind it up into a flour form, it deteriorates fairly quickly. So, you know, if you can grind, you know, if you have wheat berries, you grind a little bit at a time, just enough for the week or a couple days, and same thing with fuels.
Okay, next one is from Laura Corbett, or Corbet, depending on how you pronounce it. I am a single mom living in Virginia. 6 months ago, I resigned from my caretaker's position to spend more time with my special needs daughter. The Lord laid it on my heart to return home, also to learn the skills necessary to become more self-sufficient. I began making soap, fermenting, dehydrating vegetables and herbs, filling my pantry shelves with so much more. I am so glad to report that even when my savings ran low, we were still able to eat from my prepped goods. Your channel has been a wealth of information for me, at no charge. May God richly bless you and Patrick for all you do. My warmest regards. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I really wanted to share that one because this is a single mom with a special needs daughter.
Right.
So no matter what your situation is, you can prep. There's people of all different walks of life and in various situations that do this, you know, that have little to no income or have a lot. You don't have to be like these people that seem to have an unlimited supply of cash somewhere that can, you know, fancy up all their rigs and their homes and stuff like you might see in certain television shows. Not everybody can do. I think that's more rare.
Well, the special needs or special medical needs, those things you should plan on now. Consider their needs and prepare for that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
We have a video on that too, but we might not be as extensive on that just because we don't have a lot of medical needs.
Right, we don't.
Pretty
It's
much
not on the
nothing.
forefront of our mind.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so we just think of more like emergency things such as your cuts and whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, things like that. So
yeah.
okay, the next one is from Wendy K. So, and Cody says hi, Wendy. My two favorite people. Ha 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 on the army helmet. Remember when you said that on the helmet and the digging the hole? So, okay, you have to watch that video that these comments are from to know what that's about. We do need to be preparing for whatever could happen. God tells us to be wise and we are prepared. My 401k is my prepping. Love that. I am thankful that my prepping is my savings account. What happens like in our area and we have a bad snowstorm and we can't get out? Flooding, ice storms. We have had that, and my husband could not get to work for a few days. And we knew we were going to be short on our paycheck. But we did not need to go to the grocery store as we had our savings account at home. What good information, and really take into account what the rains are talking about. Thank you for another great video.
Well, thank you, Wendy, for that compliment.
Right.
And
Yeah. And that's so yeah, again, more real life stories
Yeah,
to
right.
think about. You know, just anything that can happen to you can and will happen.
And you got to consider elasticity in your budget.
Right.
When you prep and you find a month where you have a bill that you didn't expect to come, well, you can not spend so much at the store, not spend so much at the gas station. If you save a little bit of fuel, well, you can use that fuel during that time. So when you get caught up on your little surprise expense or emergency, then you can start restocking that after you get more coming in. So these are great, right on.
Right. And well, and this idea of the whole savings account thing
Right.
is that stuff is going to actually, you know, as long as you keep working through it, but in a bad situation, how much more value is that fuel, is that food, is that whatever else you've got stored up gonna have? It's gonna be far more valuable than money sitting in a bank earning a fraction of a % in interest.
Have you ever gone to the store and you know, bought whatever and stood in the checkout line, and you get up to the cash register and you're 5 cents too short or $1.50 too short. Well, that $1.50 is
Or 2 pennies.
means quite a bit if you don't
Right.
have it.
Right.
It's just the difference between getting whatever it is you needed to get or not. So if you look at it that way, switching off the light switch, it'll save you a few cents there, and buying things on sale when you can buy it in bulk, you're saving money there. And so this is a whole well-rounded idea, framework here for what we do, and there's a lot of people out there who are doing the same thing we're doing.
Right. Okay, the next comment is by XZKT. Phil. Just a random name he chose. So it's not really a name at all. There's too many Phils out there, so he had to put XZKT.
It's definitely original.
Just whatever keys he hit. So anyway, he says, people who think they are prepping for the SHTF or the EMP are deluding themselves. There is no way to prepare for a doomsday situation. You can get the materials to survive, but most people will not have the mindset it will take. You can be ready for the much more likely situations most of us will have, such as extended power outage, job loss, and things like that. Prepping for those is no different than having a savings account or a just-in-case fund. I think that kind of prepping is common sense. As you well know, common sense is an uncommon virtue nowadays. I recently read that a large percentage of families in the U.S. don't have the funds to handle a $400 emergency. Yeah, I've heard about this, and people having to take loans out for such small amounts. They are probably not going to be the preppers and don't even think about prepping. Those are the people who will try and take your preps if there is an SHTF or EMP. I thought you had a lot of good material in your video. 99% of the people in this country are not prepared like you two are. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, Phil.
And what I gleaned out of that is more important than stuff. Stuff's important, but having the skill set, or having the ability to remember how to survive with little, is really important.
So next comment by Sojourner. Very informative video, Heidi and Patrick. Thank you. I have a little stored up. I won't starve, but I have a ways to go to be better secured. I add to it as I am able. I think the best way to make sure we will get through the harder times is making sure our spiritual houses are in order. Everything else will fall into place. Amen. Thanks so much for sharing, and God bless.
We all have an appointment with death, and the most important thing is to get your soul right. So
Absolutely.
you want to prepare for that before you prepare for any earthly emergency that you have. So
Right.
just
Absolutely.
Just us.
Number one first, and that's why I read that comment. And then the other reason I read it is because this is someone who's just getting started, just getting into it. And we all have to start somewhere. And I think it's a common mistake that people who realize, wow, I should do this too, they think they need to overnight be 2 years ahead on their food storage. Well, that takes time. Unless you have an unlimited amount of money, it takes time to build that up. It might take 2 years to get yourself built up, or more, to where you're 2 years ahead. And so you have to remember, every little bit you do counts. As long as you're being a good steward with your money, and you're planning, and you're taking the bull by the horns, and just going ahead on this, and then coupled with putting God first and trusting Him. This is what matters. So don't freak out if you're new to this. Don't freak out, like most of us go through that 1.5 to 2 years of freak out zone. Just a little at a time. Maybe it's setting aside $1 or $2 a week to put towards prepping. Maybe it's $5 or $10, depending on your budget, and just work on it. Buy one little extra bag of beans next time you go to the store, or rice, or jug of maple syrup, or whatever it is that you feel is going to help starting with the very basics like that to get you through. I shouldn't go into all this detail because we cover that in our other videos. So
Well, prepping is a lifelong experience, not just a 2-year thing.
Right.
There's always areas that we can improve on
Yep.
and capitalize
Always.
on. Prepping is a situational thing or an opportunity when opportunities arise. I just recently picked up a little metal lathe, and it was an opportunity. Generally you spend a lot of money on a metal lathe, and a metal lathe is going to come in handy for
Right.
a multitude of things. It's just another way for us to prep for the future, to be more
Yep.
frugal with our
and
income.
self-sufficient.
Self-sufficiency, that's what I was looking for right
Right.
there.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I figured you meant.
I guess what you have to do is look at yourself and say, well, is this going to help me in a long-term situation? Is it going to help me to save money? And you have to separate that between being a hoarder.
Right.
I'm kind of a tool hoarder and a stuff hoarder when it comes to materials like that. So a guy has to be
Come on, Dave.
a little bit careful about how he does that. I have to size up my shop, maybe get rid of a few tools that I have duplicates of. I know there's the 2 is 1, 1 is none thing, but there does come a point where shop space is a valuable thing too.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway,
But that got me thinking too, is that sometimes, when it comes to prepping, and we talk a lot about frugality, we have a whole series on frugality and reading comments from people about being frugal. But sometimes, spending a little money on certain things, it might not necessarily help you save money per se, but it will help you be more self-sufficient. So you consider people that maybe have goats or things, or even raise bees, and it might be a pretty expensive thing to do, yet by doing it they are more self-sufficient.
Right.
And I'm sure along the way you figure out ways to cut the cost of that and learn how to use things that you already have on hand, or grow fodder for your animals and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next comment by Brandy Philly. I think I'm pronouncing it right this time, if I remembered correctly from the last time. Our story revolves around strikes, but not one from grocery stores. I cannot remember if I mentioned it in the frugality video or the keeper at home video, but we were affected by the GM strike that lasted weeks. I don't work for GM, but I work for a contractor of them, and we were laid off during that time frame. If it had not been for all of the prepping we have done, we may have had a different outcome. Although it did show us we saved money by me not working. It also helped by having preserved foods in all varieties. It opened my mind to being more creative. It gave me an opportunity to lean back on the skills I had already obtained but didn't have time to do because I worked full time. There were other times in the last couple of years where we lost our city water due to flooding, which pushed us to get off of it and hook up to the natural spring water that we had water rights to. There is so much liberty and freedom to knowing when life-changing events do happen, you will be okay. We are also raising our granddaughter with the same outlook on life, and if things would have become more severe than what they were, we could have started butchering some of our roosters a little sooner than expected. But we didn't have to because the good Lord put it upon us to be prepared. So many things can happen unexpectedly, and it is a shame that so many have gotten used to convenience that they don't have a desire to learn until they are in those situations.
right. How true is that? A lot of people will say, well, that doesn't affect me, especially when a big company around your area folds or fails or has big layoffs or has financial trouble. There's a trickle-down effect to that. Around this country, it was there was a logging industry was affected by the
Spotted owl.
spot owl and the murrelet.
Yeah, which was all
It was the murrelet, and so
fake.
in our area, the merchants, contractors, everybody was affected by that impact. So
Yeah.
there's a trickle effect or a domino effect to what's going on. Just like just like Brandy had mentioned here. So a good point. That can turn into an emergency.
Yep. Okay, next comment is by Rhonda Welker. Rhonda was one of those I got to actually meet in person. We both did back in the spring. So, important topic and great coverage. I never expect anything less because you always deliver. Thanks, Rhonda. I enjoy reading others' comments. As you said, there are so many benefits and saving is a big one. Shopping is not my favorite thing to do. So by stocking up, I can spend my time doing things I want to do instead of running to town all the time. Yes, I so agree with this. Our pantry consists of both home canned items as well as store-bought items. If there's a good sale on, I will, as you said, buy for tomorrow at today's prices.
All right.
We had a bad winter last year with a lot of wind and drifting snow. Our worry wasn't that we couldn't get out or go to the store, but in case of an emergency, we not only couldn't get out, emergency vehicles couldn't get in. We were okay with things we needed, and we had a neighborhood hero who showed up in the blizzard-like conditions with his bulldozer and cleared all of our driveways, not once, but twice. So thankful we were prepared and that we have such a kind neighbor. Thank you for another great video. Harvey is like you, Patrick. He's always fixing things himself. And yes, we met Harvey too. Yeah, that was, in fact, we don't get snow around here much. We've had winters we haven't even had a single flake. But usually we'll get just a little bit, but every once in a while we'll have a year where a bunch of snow will dump down on us.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick was able to take his backhoe one year and kind of clear the road out here himself, you know, for ourselves and for our neighbors. So, you know.
Yeah, we got some free food out of the deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's always.
Got some home cooked meals from a couple of neighbors and that appreciated it. And so,
Right.
yeah.
So it's, you know.
Having the equipment there again is,
Right.
you know, like I say, like Heidi says, it doesn't snow much here, but it's great having the opportunity to be able to have that stuff on hand to bail you out of a situation,
Right.
especially if you live down a long country road somewhere
Right.
where you have trees you got to move, or you've had a slide, or you got to do a little road work or something like that. Having a backhoe and a little dump truck is not a bad thing if you can
Right.
swing it.
But then the whole idea too of just, you know, if you're in a neighborhood or you have neighbors anywhere close to you, that you guys can pull together and help each other out. That's one thing about our little town. It's it might not be, you know, we might not have I think we have a fairly high ratio of prepping type people in our town simply because of where we live.
Necessity.
Necessity. But the other thing is that if nothing else, people do pull together here. We've seen it happen over and over again in, you know, different crisis situations. So that's one reason I'm thankful to live where we do. Small towns are good for that. Okay, last comment is by Sharon Brown. And I know I read one by Sharon last time, but
Oh,
you
sure.
know, she's been following us forever. And
She's a big support.
when
to
she
us.
does comment, she's got some doozies.
Yeah.
So, great video. I have always been a prepper, long before the word prepper came about. I guess living in a hurricane-prone area has always kept me on that road. When a storm comes about, everyone is clearing the shelves. We just batten down the hatches here without having to go out. Also, another point is prepping is a huge money saver as long as you are rotating what you have food-wise. When we've been out and about all day and get home later than we wanted, we don't eat out. We open jars of home canned food, heat it up, and have a hearty, healthy meal. Right. There are so many advantages to prepping. My son comes over and shops at Mom's grocery store, LOL. We do have a 2-year food supply that we continuously rotate, which is a really good place to be. Getting 2 years ahead on food in particular is actually a lot easier to do than it sounds. It just takes time and practice. And then once you get there, you just keep rotating. You keep rotating through that food.
Yeah, your food, your fuel, and your water you always have to rotate that
Yep.
stuff. And figure out a system where, you know, your shelving system or whatever, when you restock the shelf, always put the older material to the front.
Right.
So you grab that the next.
Okay. Well, that's it for the comments for this video, and we will be doing at least one more of these. So if you would like to share, if you haven't done so yet, or you shared in the last video and we didn't get a chance to read your comment, then go ahead and share it again down below, and or even a news story down below that you would like us to share. And can't promise we're going to read it because we have to just keep it narrowed down so the video isn't too long, but at least it will help encourage other people maybe to go back and read these comments,
Right.
and the ones also that will come under this video.
Again, that we learn from you guys, we
Yep.
learn from each other, and there's strength in numbers.
Right, and we also often get reminded about things that maybe we haven't thought about in a while, or why we do what we do.
Right.
I hope you enjoyed this video, so thanks for watching,
Take care.
and God bless.